Well, let me first congratulate you on just a magnificent performance of the St. Matthew Passion
Thank you.
last night. Such a moving experience, but in particular, I wanted to ask you about the style of playing, the orchestral playing in the performance, because it seemed to show a profound understanding of period instrument practice, and I didn't know that about you, that you had such a deep interest and such an understanding of performance practice.
Well, I was brought up actually since my 19th birthday with the Royal Concertgebouw, and from that day on, I was really being involved in early music, so to say, because first of all, the old music scene was, you can say, exploding at that time, and we are talking about beginning of the 80s. And then was, of course, there was one person who really played a huge role in our life, and also, of course, in my life, and that was Nicolaas Hanoncourt. He was the one who came out of the libraries, so to say, and really acknowledged a very different style of playing, and since then he was there every year, multiple weeks with the Royal Concertgebouw, and we played St. Matthew. I played the St. Matthew for many years, St. John's Passion, and so this music feels very natural with me, and also the style of playing, because a lot of people those days who are performing music, old music, like Bach, think that the non-vibrato issue, that's about it, and the speed, but that's not it. That's not what it is about. It is about different phrasing, and it is about talking, not with the left hand, because there the vibrato of course comes, but at the same time to play non-vibrato is one thing, but the next thing is what do you implant in instead of putting a big sauce of vibrato over every note. And the implant is, of course, that you need to talk with your right hand. So it's very important for the strings to know how to phrase and to know how to use the bow arm. The other thing is that, for instance, the flutes, I was really insisting of really play with wooden flutes, and they had not really a great feeling about that, but I said, before you say no, try it. I like to I want, in principle, I always like to say yes. And then if you say this is nothing for me, then you can always drop it. So they did, and they seems to love it at the end. So I'm very happy with that. And of course we use some old instruments, but with the strings, of course, we are not using old instruments. We don't have that material. But I would like to give my orchestra a big compliment to get so close to the old music, old instrument sound. So yeah, I'm very happy that we achieved that. We could not do that in just 3-4 days. We needed really to have an extra time because it has to sink in. This sound, this different sound. I told the orchestra it's like red wine. It needs time. It needs time to grow, to have the richness of, and they need to adjust it. And we need to understand as conductors. We need to understand that if you put a piece in front of a big symphony orchestra, that they need to adjust to it, and they need also to start to love it. And that takes a little bit of time, and you cannot do it in 3-4 days. So I was very happy that the orchestra gave us the opportunity to to do that a little longer than just 3-4 days.
Is this something you might try to do in every season? Take on repertoire from this period? Maybe do not just 1 week, but a couple of weeks in succession?
Well, a lot of people were so, I would say, enthusiastic and happy with this that we would consider actually this to do a little bit more often probably, and maybe we can start a tradition. Of course, there is a huge tradition of passions in Europe, especially in the Netherlands, the St. Matthew and the St. John's Passion, and I would be very happy to bring that back all the time, because I think the future of the big symphony orchestras is that we should be sort of a chameleon. We should be able to have all these styles in our belt, under our belt, so to say. And this was maybe a little bit something else for this orchestra, and I'm extremely happy that that they really found their way in how to do this.
Well, this is something that has to come from the conductor, and a lot of people may not realize that the further back you go in music history, the less there is on the printed page for the conductor and the players. And in the case of the St. Matthew Passion, there are many movements with no tempo markings, no dynamic markings.
No.
So you almost have nothing but the black notes and of course the bar lines and whatnot, but that means a lot of decisions have to be made by the conductor.
Yeah, well, you know, you make your decisions quite often because you have a text, and the text plays a huge role in this piece, and that is of course then my education, as to say, with this piece. I can say that not only by Harnoncourt, but with Tom Koopman, with Frans Bruggen, with Herrewegen, all these so-called old music specialists, you get quite a good view of how this story has to be told, because this is what it is. We are telling, even when we just play a nice choral, or you know, we all the time tell a story. So the text is really the lead of this piece, and then with the text you start your phrasing.
Right. You mentioned the chorales. I was struck by the way you handled them, because very often in the past conductors have used the chorales to provide more than a textual commentary, but also a musical commentary. And they make them so often heavy,
yes,
and sentimental.
Sentimental.
Yes.
That's you know, that's the sentimental thing is a trap, I would say. And if you get too sentimental with it, it loses its power. It loses its beauty. And so it loses its meaning. And if you stick to the text and you understand that the chorus is the most important thing in the chorals, and then the orchestra is just filling in colors, so not leading, but coloring in what the chorus is doing, and then you stick to the words and to the text, then I think it is emotional enough. And what Bach does is that he doesn't let us look so much outside, but he wants us to look inside, dig in everything what he says, and of course there is sometimes there is a celebration in this piece of holiness and beauty, but there is also quite a lot of sadness. And the sadness you don't celebrate out, the sadness you celebrate in. So it's very important that you just stick to the text, and again, don't get too sentimental. There's a huge difference between beauty and sentimentality, sorry.
Yes, yes, exactly.
And yeah, that's very important that we don't.
A couple of musical points that struck me in your performance. The lightness of the basses, for example. Even playing pizzicato, I noticed sometimes. The aria with the violin solo.
Yes, erbarmelijk.
Yes.
Yes.
And so often that bass line, as beautiful as it is heavy.
Yeah.
But you had it almost pianissimo, but just enough to define the rhythm, but maintain the balance. And overall, there was this lyrical quality in everything you did, and avoidance of bar lines. It seemed to me you were conducting, well, without a baton, that was unusual for you, but also conducting over the bar line, so you didn't get constantly that downbeat effect. It was a more flowing kind of line.
Well, to be honest, I don't even feel that I'm conducting the piece. The piece is conducting itself. But of course there has to be somebody who is just leading the whole thing. But you know, concerning, for instance, the erbarmelijk, what you were talking about, I think that first of all we should be very careful that it is still a song. And if you take that song too slow, you cannot sing it anymore. And so, in my opinion, there are some moments in the bass line that are really playing out, but because of the swing in the piece, the swing, it doesn't bother anymore, and that's a very big compliment you give us there, because it's very important that it should not feel heavy. And not using a stick, I think, is that there should not be any distance between the conductor and the music. So you are part of a whole, and I feel that the stick is destructing that. If you do this piece with a baton, it feels like you are creating a distance between the music and your body. Usually, of course, we need a lot of times when we conduct the stick. It's important because we need the clearness and all these things. But it's very important with this music that there is no baton there. There should be no distance whatsoever between my hands and the other hands of the people or the other voices.
I need to mention also the quality of the playing in the orchestra in this piece. It's a compliment to you and to them, but also I think to the way in which you have been building the orchestra in a fairly short time. The first violins are becoming a section of soloists now. You have so many first-rate players, and last night you had, of course, the concertmaster, Alexander Kerr, but on the other side, two orchestras in the St. Matthew Passion. Leading the other orchestra was the former concertmaster of the Detroit Symphony, Emmanuel Barber.
Yeah.
And she has a big solo too.
As well, yes.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of them both, but I'm proud of the orchestra. I mean, the thing is that stretching the quality of an orchestra is a really fun part of our job. And if you look at the great orchestras and the real great orchestras, the fluctuation in quality is always minor. And if they have a so-called off day, which can happen to all of us, it's a little curve. And that's actually what we are doing here. We try to have this self-respect, that we are not going under a certain level, ever. Whoever is in front of us, whatever happens, we are not going under a certain level. And that starts to pay off now. Mm. And we are enjoying it also a lot, to keep that level. And it's not easy work. It's, you know, sometimes it's tough, but it pays off.
And the listeners begin to take more pride in their orchestra too.
Well, I hope so, because they should be.